Good morning to you. Morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning.
Heidi McCutcheon from the Shelton Mason County Chamber of Commerce in again this week. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again. Mm-hmm. This time we are talking about proposed changes to Washington's overtime rules. lni.wa.gov and overtime rules. You can do a search for in there and it'll get you to this information. We reported on the fact that they were extending their comment periods through tomorrow as they were getting a lot of people, one, understanding this issue, which we'll describe in a minute, but then also lots of comments coming in. So they extended the comment period and it goes through tomorrow night. So Heidi's here from the Chamber of Commerce to talk a little bit about this and what it would mean to, the majority of businesses here that we have very small numbers of employees, less than 5 in many aspects. Talk to us a little bit about what this proposed change is and what it could do.
Certainly. So I just happened upon this information when we went from when there was an initiative that the voters approved to increase minimum wage to the $13.50 that we'll see go into effect. That's been stepped up the last couple of years, but will go into permanent effect on January 1. I was involved in that rulemaking, and so was automatically on the list when they started looking at other things. So this is something that Department of L&I decided upon purely within the department themselves that they were going to take this on. So it's not initiative-based. It wasn't on anybody's radar, really. The Obama administration, right before he left, put forth some legislation to increase the current minimum wage federally, which right now is $24,000, which Washington State mirrors that, to increase that to, I want to say it was 44,000, just shy of 44,000. And there was a federal court that put an injunction in, said that he couldn't do that it didn't go through the correct processes. So Washington State L&I has been working on this for at least 18 months now and has taken a lot of feedback across the state. Unfortunately, they're using numbers that are very skewed by King County salary wages. So they're basing this wage off of a average weekly wage, which Seattle is King County is one of 3 counties in the state that is making more than $1,000 a week. Mm-hmm. So if you took up all 39 counties, added up their average wage, divided it, then it would be about $829 an hour or a week. Because of the population in Seattle, King County, that works out to about just shy of $1,300 a week. So almost double what the actual state average would be. And anybody who's taken a statistics class knows you throw out the outliers.
Sure.
You throw out the high one, you throw out the low one, and then you figure out the rest. But they're not doing that, so they can kind of skew these numbers to be higher. So based off of the recommendations that they've released, they will implement the minimum exempt salary wage. So this is for salaried workers who don't get paid overtime, that by 2026, the minimum salary wage would be $79,874.
So again, salaried workers enjoy those kind of salaried deals where, 1 week it may be a light week, so we may not work that full 40, but the week after that something crazy happens and we're at 60 perhaps. By the end of the year, it all seems to kind of work out. Yeah, and I'm a salaried employee myself, and one of the things that I appreciate is I have some really busy weeks. We have Gala Week or Expo Week or whatever, that there's easily 60, 70 hours that I put in that week. But then I can take off, half of a week the following week. Yeah. And to me, there's real security in knowing that my paycheck is the same every week or every pay period, regardless of how many hours I work. And that to me is security and safety. And that's one of the things that the state is alleging is not there right now for the minimum or for some of the salaried employees. So I agree, 24,000 where it's at right now is it's too low for a salaried employee. But to jump to more than 3 times that in a 4-year period is just ridiculous. And when you look at a lot of our small businesses, I was talking to
an employer or a business owner who is an S Corp. She's an LLC. She said, well, I'm an employee, and when I first opened up my business, I couldn't have paid myself $80,000 annually. At the same time, I couldn't pay myself even an hourly wage. And so them taking this, by raising this minimum salary so much, either way, I don't comply, because either I'm working and not paying myself, or again, you go back to, as a business owner, you don't want to keep track of your hours. You don't want to have to go by a time clock and figure out what you're going to pay yourself.
So if you were part of the rulemaking process on the minimum wage deal, and we kind of all voted on that as a state, how are you familiar with how they're able to implement these rules without either the legislators' input or by a vote of the people? So the legislature right now is allowing this to move forward as it happens. When it first began, they waited until the legislature adjourned session for that year. That happened to be when there were more Republicans in office, and then we had the election season that fall. And so when the next year came, it was the majority Democrats, and it's a Democratic leader in charge of labor and industries. So they're allowing this to move forward. Okay. And again, this is for folks who are salaried, and they do mainly executive, administrative, professional, or outside sales. Mm-hmm. These are the types of workers which are a majority of the workers, especially when we look at the small businesses like you were mentioning, and other nonprofit organizations that have paid executive director positions and things like that.
Well, and oftentimes you look at municipalities, so the city or the PUD, or a number of these different organizations too, that oftentimes here it's a salary wage. You're expected to be here so many hours a week.
Yeah,
you have some flexibility in those hours, but so this will affect a lot of our businesses,
and it will. Likely, if this goes through, the first increase would take effect July 1 of next year if the rules go through, and then a pretty steep curve to get to 2026, which would be then not only the small employers, 50 or less, but the large-scale employers all on the same level. And you mentioned that wage was 80,000?
It's 79,874, I believe. So we actually did a survey of our members. We had about 60 people that responded, equal numbers, employees and employers. 40% of the employers said that they would need to lay off some positions. They just simply couldn't do it, and it's likely that they would split out a couple of different employees to take over those businesses. Interestingly, from the employees that answered the survey, only 17% of them said that they would prefer to be an hourly employee.
Sure,
the majority of them wanted to remain as salary.
So if these rules went through a way that the employers would have to determine this, so they said, well, now you're going to have to be hourly, and we're going to really kind of make sure that you're working when you're working for the hours that you're working, as opposed to having that cushion of some weeks will be heavier than other weeks. Right. So the rule making process is still ongoing. The deadline for comments on this is tonight. Tomorrow night. So you can go to LNI and look up overtime rules. You can see the draft there, and you can provide public comments there via email, or there's a fax number as well. Those are probably your best ways to get them in by tomorrow night. And depending on how they take the comments and they enact this, it could go into effect and start taking effect July 1 of next year.
Right.
You have the information on the Chamber website too?
Yeah, we have it all on our website. Really, the only way to even slow this down or to reconsider the salary wages is to have more people comment and say, especially the employees, we don't want to be an hourly employee.
Sure. Heidi, good to see you. This is a interesting subject, and it's really fascinating that it's kind of going... I get where you're saying that the LNI is run by the Democrats, and the House and the Senate are kind of majority there, so they're letting it go through. Whereas if it was opposing party, perhaps they'd put the kibosh on this pretty quick.
Right. And again, I don't think that the minimum salary wage needs to remain as low as it is, but a 4-time multiplier of where it is now
In 5 years or 6 years.
Is, we have those employees now that are $25 an hour that are basically is what their wage works out to.
Yeah.
And Mason County is a far different cry than King County.
Sure.
You could not pay me enough to make me work in King County
Right.
to deal with that traffic.
That's
all the
exactly
time.
right. Heidi, good to see you again, and thanks for bringing this to the attention of the listeners here, and we'll put the links in the show notes, and of course you can always go to the sheltonchamber.org to find the links to LNI on this one.
Great.
Thank you.